It was exam season, and I was about to take my final exam of the semester, my most difficult course. Unlike previous semesters where I struggled academically and drifted away from the study habits that once helped me succeed, this time felt different. I prepared more than I ever had before. You see, to me, this exam represented more than just a grade. It felt like a chance at redemption. The previous semesters had left me questioning my abilities, and this exam felt like an opportunity to prove, to myself more than anyone else, that I could recover from a slump and return to the student I knew I was capable of being. The rest of my exams had gone well, so I entered that morning feeling optimistic. After spending the previous week reviewing and studying, I felt genuinely prepared. I woke up, coordinated with a classmate to meet outside the exam hall for some last-minute review, and left home several hours before the exam. My university is over an hour away, and since I planned to arrive early, I gave myself plenty of time. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. I was listening to my favorite music and feeling confident about the day ahead. Then, about 30 minutes from campus, I smelled burning rubber. Seeing that something was wrong, I pulled onto the shoulder of the highway and discovered that I had a flat tire. It was completely mangled. A piece of metal had lodged itself into the tread. And to make matters worse, I couldn't safely change the tire where I was parked because of the traffic passing by, so my only option was to call for roadside assistance. At that point, the stress started building. My exam was only an hour and a half away, and all I could do was wait. Nearly 40 minutes passed before my car could be moved to a safe location, and another 15 minutes were needed to install the spare tire, of course. By the time I was back on the road, I could only take side roads because of the spare tire, turning what should have been a straightforward drive into an even longer journey. In total, I arrived at the exam hall about 30 minutes after the exam had already started, and it took additional time to get checked in and registered. Although I spent countless hours preparing, I could feel the stress overwhelming me. As I looked at the questions, it became difficult to process what I was reading. The knowledge was there, but it felt inaccessible, as though the pressure of the situation had created a barrier between what I knew and what I could actually demonstrate. Because this exam carried so much personal significance, the stress felt even more intense. It wasn't simply about passing a course. In my mind, it represented my ability to bounce back from failure and prove that I hadn't lost my potential. I ended up rushing through the exam and barely passing. While I was relieved to earn the credit, I knew my performance did not reflect my actual understanding of the material. Looking back, the experience taught me something important. Stress has the power to influence far more than our emotions. It can affect our thinking, decision-making, memory, and performance, even when we've done everything possible to prepare. That experience showed me that stress can make or break an exam, a presentation, a competition, or any high-pressure moment. More importantly, it demonstrated how easily stress can shape the direction of our lives if we allow it to take control. Today, I want to explore what stress does to us, why it affects our performance so dramatically, and how we can learn to manage it before it begins to manage us. It's hard to understand what chronic stress does to someone or how it feels unless you've had it, as it truly affects everything depending on how severe it is. Personal relationships, memory, decision-making, physical health, and sleep. The problem is that everything is on the table. It also may be hard to notice consistent stress, as to many, including myself at certain points in my life, it kind of becomes a normal state of being. Small stressors like school, family issues, financial problems slowly but surely creep up until they've compounded and taken hold of you unwillingly. Stress leads us to personal vices like lust, gambling, impatience, anger, etc. It makes us more prone to things that are damaging to ourselves in the long run, just to ward off and get some relief in the moment. And so I want to first talk about things to avoid building up this kind of stress, and things to stay away from to make you aware of, and then I will go into management or practices that have helped me personally. Firstly, one of the biggest things that has led to the more stressful times in my life is just letting little things go. During downtimes or where people feel lost, I usually notice what comes with this is a disregard for smaller things like daily hygiene habits, relationship upkeep, almost like the housework for your house, because these things seem so mundane in the face of the bigger issue or stressor or in times of grief. Whether it be getting a driver's license, cleaning your room, picking your courses, signing up for a program, getting a credit card, etc., etc. Things like this relieve so much more stress when actually done immediately and prioritized that it's always worth the investment, in my opinion. Basically, the bang for your buck when it comes to avoiding stress is so great that really trying to not let these things pile up, even if they seem mundane to you, should be prioritized. Secondly, false adventures. There's so many things to choose from these days. Careers and what you want to do, and every commitment feels like nothing else but wrong because there's always something better you think you could be doing. The grass is greener sort of situation. Something to make more money, something to feel more joy, something more purposeful maybe, etc. And there's no shortage of people telling you how to choose something to dedicate your life to, basing it off of personality or disregarding yourself and contribute to something meaningful maybe, even if it makes you feel like shit. And you get what I mean. Point being, we are so prone to false adventures or get ourselves trapped into commitments that we know at some level we do not want to do, and kind of thug it out or be disciplined. But at least from my experience, there's a difference between dealing with minor stressors or obstacles and being misaligned fundamentally with something you're doing. Discipline cannot fix this kind of issue. It brings a kind of chronic stress that is subtle but more consistent and can lead to many physical and mental health problems which are best avoided. So I won't tell you how to choose something for now, but I can say that if you're feeling like something is fundamentally wrong with whatever you're doing, or you're not okay with sacrificing for said goal on a daily basis, or you're not okay with expressing this to the world and being open about it, then don't pursue it. Because you will dig yourself into a deeper hole and form relationships, connections, and debts tied to this false adventure that will be difficult to get out of. Thirdly is toxic people. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Relationships, whether romantic, platonic, professional, or familial, and inevitably come with some degree of stress. Disagreements happen, misunderstandings occur, and people sometimes go through difficult periods that affect those around them. That is simply part of being human. However, there's a difference between a relationship that occasionally causes stress and a relationship that consistently becomes a source of it. If you find yourself in a situation where someone is repeatedly causing you so much stress that you begin losing focus, motivation, confidence, health, etc., then it may be time to seriously reconsider that relationship. Not necessarily out of anger or resentment, but out of respect for your own well-being. One of the difficult things about toxic relationships is that they don't often feel toxic at first. The stress tends to accumulate slowly. You get used to kind of walking on eggshells and unnecessary drama and feeling drained after conversations. Eventually, what feels abnormal becomes the norm. I found that one of the easiest ways to identify a toxic relationship is to pay attention how you feel after spending time with that person. Do you leave interactions feeling encouraged, understood, and energized? Or do you leave feeling anxious, exhausted, maybe guilty or inadequate? Because the truth is, the people around us have an enormous influence on our mental state. Their habits, attitudes, and outlooks become contagious whether you like them or not. If someone is constantly negative, manipulative, dishonest, or demanding, it becomes incredibly difficult to maintain your own sense of balance. Even if you don't realize it, you're spending energy managing their chaos instead of investing that into your own growth. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone who challenges you or disagrees with you, of course. Some of the most valuable people in our lives are those willing to tell us hard truths. The difference is that those people challenge us because they care about our growth, while toxic people often create stress without contributing anything positive in return. The reality is that life already provides enough unavoidable stress. School, work, finances, health, and uncertainty are difficult enough on their own. The last thing we need is to voluntarily surround ourselves with people who consistently make those burdens heavier. Truly, if you avoid all of these things, your life will feel better at least, and you will avoid many of the major stressors that people have experienced. You'll get out of a survival mode and leave room for growth in your life, and maybe even be able to do the things that you wish to do. And so now I want to go into some practical things that you can do to manage your stress, because often we find ourselves in situations, or just sort of a byproduct at life, where we will experience stress. But an even bigger issue is when you are in an environment or have to be around people that is an unexpected or uncontrollable stressor, and it's sort of forced upon you. In these moments, especially because it's outside of our control, I think it's great to implement some of these practices. Firstly, of course, you've probably heard it before, but I'll say it again. Exercise, maybe even outdoor exposure or physical regulation in general. If I had to choose one habit, really, that has helped me manage stress more than any other, it would be exercise. And this is not just brain dead lifting the gym, Jimbo weights, like heavy weightlifting or strength training, because it could really take any form. Because stress is not just a mental experience, it is a physical one. When we're stressed, our bodies prepare for action. Our heart rates increase, our muscles tense, breathing becomes shallow, and stress hormone floods our systems, of course. The problem is that in modern life, there often isn't a physical outlet for that stress. We sit with it literally, and we think about it, and we replay it, but we rarely give it somewhere to go. And exercise comes into play here because it gives that stress somewhere to go. Again, whether it's lifting weights, going for a run, playing a sport, simply taking a long walk, it helps regulate your nervous system and it reminds your body that it's safe. And many times in my own life, I've entered a workout feeling overwhelmed and left feeling clear-headed, at least stable, and that sometimes can mean the world to people. There's also something powerful about spending time outdoors. When you're stressed, your world tends to shrink. You become consumed by deadlines and worries or responsibilities. And going outside has a way of expanding your perspective. It doesn't matter where, again, a park, a lake, or even just standing outside and feeling the sunlight on your face can remind you that there's more to life than whatever problem currently occupies your life. And so don't let stress pull you completely into your head. Physical activity is important, and allow it somewhere to go through exercise and through physical regulation and healthy, active methods. Next, of course, is proper sleep. Sleep is always overlooked, and especially in young people, especially as a form of stress management, because it feels just unproductive. In our culture that's constantly praising being busy and, espressos and the next kind of coffee line and staying up all night, doing a startup and eating cold pizza, sleep can seem like something we sacrifice in order to get more done. In reality, the opposite is usually true. Sleep deprivation is everywhere, and it makes everything harder. Small inconveniences feel larger, and patience decreases overall, our memory worsens, emotions will become more difficult to regulate. It's just overall a worse experience and a worse version of yourself. I've noticed that some of the most stressful periods of my life were not necessarily the times I had the biggest problems, but really the times when I was dealing with these problems while running on very little sleep. It is the foundation, sleep, that allows us to handle stress effectively. The brain processes information, regulates emotions, it consolidates everything from the day before during your sleep, and allows you to continue the story of your life and thread together each day by day by day. Stress is just kind of a vicious cycle when it comes to sleep, because of course stress makes it harder to sleep, and poor sleep makes you more stressful the next day, and it just becomes an extremely vicious cycle. So because of this, really you have to be proactive about protecting your sleep if you wish to get it. That means maybe setting boundaries for times and giving yourself a curfew. And I'm not saying for you to be perfect and never go out on the weekends or never go, stay up late night for some reason, but typically you have to create a foundation or a routine, at least for your sleep, that will be the usual, that you can rely on and, have a good foundation with. Lastly is social connection. Connecting with people on a daily basis is as essential to human function as sleep. And when in times of stress, I know from personal experience, the tendency is to isolate or speak less to others, or to not engage in your own life as you used to, because, like I said before, things seem so mundane, right? You definitely don't want to bring this stress into other people's lives. But connecting with people reminds us of our humanity, of our worth, of our community, and gives us armor against the many existential problems we might face. Spending days, weeks, months, or even years without expressing yourself or talking to others, which, yes, I'm ashamed to say I have done, even about school or work or little things, is very detrimental to your mind. And we can get addicted to that kind of isolation and comfort very easily, unfortunately. So calling somebody, talking to somebody every day, even about Pilates or the kind of smoothie you like or the color of the sky that day, is always infinitely better than not saying anything at all and collapsing inward, so to speak. All in all, stress is one of the main issues you will face in life, and it's a real issue, but managed properly, it can also serve as the daily drive which helps us achieve what we want to do. It can really make or break us, and I hope that this video may have helped you in any way so that you can use stress positively in your own life. And if you've made it this far in the video, truly thank you for watching. I appreciate you watching the video all the way through. Please feel free to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel if you like the content. And I look forward to seeing your suggestions, and I wish you all the best.